Great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gabor Devini, and I'm the host of the Agile Business Analyst and Product Owner Meetup. And this is a community-focused meetup. We've been running it for quite some time. It was initially started by an organization. We had a number of different Agile meetup groups, and then somehow I just took over. Like I take over the world, I started taking over the Agile B and PO meetup and have been running this for about the almost past 3 years. And we're quite lucky because we have great speakers or very experienced speakers and good conversations. Obviously, during COVID-19, we tried to move into online space. And today, managed to get Ferenc Birloni. Actually, it's Dr. Ferenc Birloni, who I know from both work and I know through family connections as well. So our children go to the same high school, but that's not the reason why he is here today. Ferenc has been working as an Agile coach. He's been working as a CTO, and he's a serial entrepreneur. So when I ask him, what are you working on? There is always something exciting that he's working on. And today he will share what his experience with one of the startups that he'd been an active part of. I think you've been a CDO there, and that focused on virtual reality, augmented reality. So a very exciting topic. And the reason why we cover in the Agile BAPO meetup, because there's a lot of elements to our work, what we're doing in business analysis or product owners, innovation, all that stuff. So I'm excited to hear from Ferenc today. Welcome, Ferenc.
Thank you, Gabo. So let me share my screen. And is it all good? Can you see it?
Yes, perfect.
Cool. Okay. So thanks, Gabo. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this Business Analyst and Product Owner Meetup. And I have a quick question. How long do you think could any product or a business survive without innovation? So I think we saw on the market many companies, even with a lot of innovation, like Nokia, that didn't succeed on the market for long. But think of an extreme example of a coffee shop that I was thinking today, is that the quality of coffee depends on such a huge amount of factors, which needs innovation and research to perfect the business and to provide a better service for the client. But let's stay with the technology industry for now. So innovation, research, and inventions are part of our daily life today, and we see a huge number of startups. We see a lot of concepts, ideas, visions as well. There's a massive number of investments, research, and business grants to support these works. And all around us, in every industry, when we think of machine learning, artificial intelligence, deep learning, IoT, AR, VR, mixed reality, or on these videos, the depth sensor-based products and services, or self-driving cars. So these research-based innovations are no longer just coming from universities or academic researches. We actually see it in our everyday life in many different parts of different industries. So today I will talk about the complexity to work with research and innovation. I actually engaged in such startups for over 10 years now, with product services for product development and for startup businesses. And the startup environment put actually an extra complexity layer on this all. So just a bit of my background as how did I actually ended up with research. I finished the Technical University of Budapest with face recognition research with my master's thesis. Then I went to the Tokyo University to do my PhD on a vision chip with image processing to get actually very high-speed vision on depth recognition back actually in 2000. And today I'm also a researcher and a lecturer of Melbourne University, the School of Engineering, and working with the VR lab. And as you can see, with Oculus based solutions for navigating through aerial imaging reconstructions. So I feel very close to this subject, and I like to drive these projects with high uncertainty to success. And the goal for today is that I will have one of my case studies, as Gabo mentioned, with an insight to a technology research and development startup. And the goal is to show how the Agile framework can help the transition and how to meet the innovation and startup challenges by supporting the business value streaming. And in addition, we will see some key factors to drive academic research innovation into product development. And I believe that that's most that fits the business analyst and product owner space. So in this case study, the startup which built an innovation of academic research results to create an AR/VR studio solution, as you can see on the video, and the vision intended to revolutionize the production of real-time content generation in the motion picture industry, which is very fascinating. Film production, live studio recordings, and the basic idea, as you can see now on the image, is that to integrate these research results, project the color recording of a studio space, a studio camera with the help of a time-of-flight sensor depth camera, that is the physical studio space, to project into a virtual studio space in real time. So this, what you see as a footage, is a real-time generation of a mixture of virtual reality and studio.
Sorry, Ferenc, just a moment, because it seems when the video is on, your sound becomes very choppy. So
right.
it might be related. So with the video, I'm not sure if everyone saw it. Just can you describe what's on the video, like with that lady being in that Ferrari and sitting down at the green?
Yes.
So pretty much what we see here is, if I understand correctly, like she has a green screen and everything what we see around.
As you can see here, for example, she's walking through the cloud, which is a virtual cloud. Such some virtual assets.
That looks really cool. Sorry, please continue on. Just bear in mind when the video is on, like the sound is a little bit choppy.
All right. Yeah, please let me know if I need to repeat some part or you have any question.
Who else turns their video off?
Yes, actually, that's what I tried before. Yeah. Tell me if it's better. So with this product, with this solution, just imagine that in an avatar level of content production would be possible in real time without the need of a post-production that avatar was built with. But it is a very complex task, even if we look at the product development side of it. You know, as I listed a few, the camera synchronization, the depth on the camera, and the studio camera fusion, the real-time latency working with, and it's pretty heavy on that. So actually, a typical challenge for startups normally is that the product is not where you think it is. So that's where our journey starts, and I will drive you through with 3 phases, and this is the first phase. So when I joined the company, they actually told me that we have a product. This seemingly simple actual execution of product development, however, we will see the encounters, difficulties in real life. So I have just joined the company when they actually went out for a roadshow, and I was confronted with the system level problem during the product presentation. So the demo actually crashed at one of the United States leading broadcast station. place in New York. And in fact, it does seem pretty critical if we consider that the system is designed as a live broadcast system to help in real time. So it's a big failure in one sense. The other side of it, that it's a typical finish of an inception phase of a startup when the product first goes to market. So it does need some feedback from the market on its acceptance. So, but let's see what was the root cause. So what is the actual path for a complex research-based vision to hit the market as a product? So to drive the complexity, of course, we start from a wide vision of a startup, and it narrows down as it goes through the innovation and research phase. And then it further narrows down as we go in the product development of features and what is the actual features that we release to the market. So these are the processes we adapt the initial minimal viable product, MVP, to the actual product feature set, and it is all done. As you see, they had the vision backlog, they had the business demand verified, they have product tested in their own studio space. It was working. So actually, they had some agile adaptations. They did Scrum like daily stand-ups. So they didn't see the problem. So where did the problem came from? So let's step one back, and I just want to give you some insight that, of course, we can find very well-established methodology for handling innovation in product development, and plenty of literature and studies are already available on this, and it treats innovation, of course, as a risk and uncertainty in the business. And the business dimension of innovation has already been integrated also into SAFe. Let me try this too. Pen, no, not pen, laser pointer. So as you can see here, probably most of you have seen this one is the innovation horizons that from SAFe originates from McKinsey. So this is not only for startups. We can see that the innovation is also with the enterprises, and the very well fits into the agile cadence and with the agile processes. So the focus today is basically that I give you some empirical failure and results learning curves through these phases and experiments with a few takeaway thoughts on this achievement. But if such good examples exist, where is the failure? So basically, we can see that even there are well-established procedures and methodologies, this still seems like can end up in a failure. So my very first thought is that I actually, since I just recognized it, I applied it, the classification of the actual innovation uncertainty. So there is so huge difference between a business innovation or an academic research. So business innovation, you can think about like a company wants to go on a digital space. So they had an office, they're selling products, but they now want a web shop. Business innovation, good. Is that the same bucket, or does it fall in the same umbrella as an academic research, where you actually have an ideal, you have a concept, and you don't even know whether it ever works or gonna work? So if you think about these different levels, and I just ask for the help of my favorite chart with the requirement, risk, and the complexity in technology. So we can see that there are so many different types of projects with only risk in the requirements. That is quite usual. Or there is a technological complexity when we want to actually upgrade our solution or product, like Joe is with us. So like at ANZ with the implementation of some AI technology into the decision making. So what is the innovation level? What is the level of uncertainty that we actually put in? And there are many different aspects of it, how to categorize and how to order it. I believe, and my experience is that whatever aspect you see, somehow the list will be in the same order. So business innovation will stay on the top as the less complex and with the less uncertainty, and academic research part will be on the top. But if you think about two of these aspects that I would recommend you to use is, one is the cadence. So what is the time required for each of these for iterations? So if you think about agile methodologies and agile practices, what is the actual cadence? With business innovation, we could use actually the normal development life cycle to implement it. But with an academic research or with a proof of concept or with a vision of a startup, is that the same cadence to have a proof of concept, to have a feasibility, to have a demo, have a feedback from the market? And the other one is, which is very close, I believe, is definition of done. We heard it a lot of time, but what is the definition of done for an academic research? Wow, I saw it working. Yeah, it's not really the same as what we would say when it goes out to business and you release your first product. It's not really acceptable that I saw it working, but at the moment it doesn't work. But I saw it already once working.
Sorry, Ferenc, can I have a question regarding this?
Yes.
So, for example, a flying car that would obviously be in the like on the top right corner, right? As an academic research, and I see it once working. Then yeah, we have flying cars. What about stuff that we are doing every day, like an agile transformation, where we always say it's innovative? We move from a traditional ways of working to agile. Can it be? Is it innovation at all, and can it be classified as any of these quadrants?
No, it's an interesting question. In fact, well, I was prepared to work and to give you an insight to technical innovations, but and this is more like organizational one. But I believe that with that sort of thinking, I would use a different chart on what is the acceptance level as culture and what is the prepared level as on how far we are from which goal, or what is the business response on it. So there might be different aspects to actually set up the categories. On academic wise, I believe that as we saw in the past, probably in the US before in the 1990s, that they were trading with best practices in the same industry on how is the best practice for managing the organization. I would say that such a good practice is much closer to us now, because we share it in the meetups and with conferences, and it's not like a secret as we steal from Toyota the Lean model or something like that. But definitely would be interesting to explore. Then how would these categories fit for an agile transition? Yeah, good question. I wouldn't have an answer right now.
That's fine. I just want to have the interactivity. So
That's right. Yeah, thanks for the question. Yeah. So what the point is that what works in a laboratory environment, ready to present in a conference, which is rather a proof of concept type of result, is definitely not ready for a product or service. And in our example, for example, in a very limited environment, this solution was limited without using the camera without any zoom. It had to be stable. It didn't work with blonde people, and it didn't work with very black hair people, people with black hair. So there were already some limitations that was not really fit for the market. So if we look at beside the research complexity, if we look at the technical complexity, And I might try to play the video for a bit because it just helps to understand the technical complexity. So beside the research complexity, there is technical complexity. And you can see some short list of technical complexities, multi-domain issue with the working with the time-of-flight cameras, feed resolution, the fill rate, the synchronization, the registration, the fusion of the depth camera and the RGB, working with the focus, the zoom, the same. The PC upscale, the mesh generation, depth skiing. So there are a lot of technical issues as well. So it opens up a different dimension. And the beyond the technical one, there's one more. So how do we actually go with the implementation? So what is a product development process required? So what are the skills and experiences that we need from the team to actually fulfill the requirement to get a product out from the development? So I would say that Gabor is much closer to DevOps field, but we need the development lifecycle. We need the testing. We need the DevOps. We need architecture, the stability limitations, the code quality. We need to work with the repo, with the infrastructure. So there's a lot of other things that and skills that we need. So the end, what we come to is that we have a startup. We have a research startup. We have research complexity, technology complexity. We need to actually develop a product. So how do we work with? How can we afford not to have all these skill set into the startup? Can we actually succeed without it? So it's a multi-level complex problem. And the Agile methodology can grab this complex problem. So let's see how. So uncertainty of the missing competencies actually results that competition situation with the developers leads to that group of developers working on individual, not as a team. The people don't cooperate in a team, and the team frustration that no success is in progress because they just achieve goals. So what is the solution? So fill the gap, calling some external experts, get some further trainings, building T-shaped competencies, which also helps to fill the gap internally, as you can see. And then how is Agile practice helps on it? So how can we coach it to success? What is the real goal for a coach in this situation? Is it the process, the framework? And as we are right here, from the business analysis and the product owner perspective, how do you actually drive it? What is the input? So for the coaching, what was set is that let's have the coaching focusing on the processes and the framework. And the prio 2 is the culture, the common understanding and acceptance of to build a practice, to follow the framework. And then the third is as a key decision that not focusing to solve any of the problems, but to provide a way to a solution. So as Agile coaching, it led to the pragmatic implementation of the Agile framework. So what the result of this pragmatic framework is that started to actually put the teams on the same page. In the first phase, sorry, this is the second one, but as for the transition, let's have the development team and the research team together, and let them work together. Let's them have a discussion every morning. Let's make it the rolling plan. So they had the autonomy, the team autonomy to make their own decisions on which way they're going to reach the goal. A clear and prioritized backlog they received with small goals. The backlog was organized, prioritized. So they actually had both the hardware team and the research and development team had their own backlog, and they had to work just pragmatically with the framework.
Sorry, Ferry. Again, just quick question. So the hardware team, they are people who work with the cameras and those kind of things.
Correct.
And what about the R&D team? So development team, I guess they are the software writers. What about the R&D team? What kind of things they worked on before?
So the research and development was in one team, and at that time, at this phase, whatever was the goal, if it had any research related part, then the researchers took care of it, like normally in a team, because they were professional in their field, and the development tried to implement it and to actually put it in the product.
Yep.
Straight.
So what you said that before, they were like in silos. Everyone kind of worked only on their stuff and they didn't care about the others.
And now we turned it around. So
Yep.
basically in this step, as we applied pragmatically the Agile framework, they started to talk. And as a result, they started to talk during the day. They started to work together and to achieve something in common. As they were working together to actually put something in the product and make it work and not to fail. So as a result, in fact, this organic team started to work and started to form. You can see that there were some results, as you can see on the video. So we had the transportation visible. Just you see now that two people in absolutely different space in virtual environment, so three sources, and in the same space, they're walking around each other in real time. It was a huge success, and as a result of it, the company actually received the Best of Innovation Award from NAB in Las Vegas, I think in 2017 or 16. But let's go to the next phase. So there were still problems, and the problem was that the pressure on feature delivery caused still a mixture. And what happened is that the feature that required research went straight into the product branch. The product branch was maintained by the developers mainly, not by the researchers, of course. And they did solve the problem of DevOps and testing. But when a research branch went into the main branch, it was not the same level of acceptance as we just discussed, but it actually came into product. So when the company went on a product demo again, it was an unstable behavior of the product. It didn't actually perform. It was even worse because the already functioning features had bugs in it and was instability, showed impossible. So there was again a market rejection for the product, and there was a big, huge tension between the researchers and the developers. And as we actually started to solve, because everybody was very proactive already on working together on a solution, the teams decided to actually separate the research from development. So, and from the stability point of view, we sent everyone into the ISTQB training. Probably most of you heard about it. So the international standard for test and quality training. And as a result, they started the, as you can see on the pictures, just for illustration, the code reviews. But let's get back for the research part. So, and it will be very interesting story as a third phase. The research and development separated. It actually separated also on the branches. So the research branch was a proof of concept and became an enabler for the product. So when the research actually came into a stable working and was accepted by the development team, then it started its journey as a feature. And the developers actually focused on the product. So they already approved research concepts and new feature concepts which came out from the research, but is already approved. And as a separated research branch, it went through a gateway of feasibility prototype demo. And in this gateway, there was any point where actually the product owner team could decide that, yes, let's go and we can put it into product now. And let's have the development team working on it further. So let's have a look from the business analyst and product owner viewpoint. So basically, there are there's a vision backlog, and we have separated the vision backlog into 3 parts now. There was a hardware backlog, there was a development product backlog, and there was a research backlog. And it was necessary for research to, even for a startup, it's very sensitive, to maintain a budget-wise gateway decision, whether it can go further or not. And I believe that this is just a good example. I love companies with a lot of problems, but it's a good example. It's the same with the enterprises. So you need to have a certain budget or a certain time, whatever, just some limitations on your innovation research, and have a gateway, a KPI on how do you actually go further on that point. Do the research actually came up, or the innovation came up with a result that can go further? And as we have done this separation, and we have actually came up with the workflow, with the framework, and with the processes, and everybody started to work accordingly. It came with the new success stories. We actually ended up to going for the Silicon Valley, visited Intel and some other big companies, and showed our results. Oops, sorry. It doesn't seem to come in, but anyhow. But let's go further. Yep. So to just an overview of the innovation, what has been done. So the new product ID went through on different phases, but it actually had to separate the teams. So what we learned so far is that let's put the teams together, let them work together. If they have absolutely different cadence, if they have absolutely different acceptance level or acceptance criteria, they work against absolutely different OKRs or KPIs, they cannot work in the same team. There has to be some gap in between and had to be separated. So in this sense, the research team, the development team, and the hardware team was separated. They had their own backlogs, and asked for, and we just came to the point, which is very interesting for you guys, is I believe, is that where is the information coming from? So how do we actually feed from the vision to the backlogs? And you can see that in a startup environment, but I believe it's the same with the with any big organizations, is that there are so many stakeholders and everybody has its own priorities and own concept of business value. So there is so many different sources of information and goals put together. So we formulated a product owner team, which was coached by a CTO coach and the product owner team coach that facilitated the product owner team to create the input, go through the gateway points. And I have to say that this was not from SAFe, it was not from Spotify. It was at the time when SAFe and Spotify came out. So it was organic. And that's why I feel it that I have to say that with the framework of learning, with Agile framework of learning, when you have organic teams working on their own benefits, this is the power that you can reach, that they actually solve very complex problems and actually reach result, not focusing to solve the problems, but facing the problems, recognizing the problems, and then solve it. So we had two facilitators. One coach was for the product owner team, and one was for the release management and for the teams, for a Scrum coach. And we had developed with these organic teams the supportive framework for improvement, a collaborative approach to have this. And I have to say also that my insight is that it wouldn't be possible without the very active and full support of the CEO. You have to have the strongest person in the, especially in the startup, to support this change and to get this whole facilitation and adoption transition to have done. The Agile coach and the team actually came up with the state of the art. It's still so unique what they created. It's 2 years ago, but as you can see, they actually had a high resolution, a full HD resolution, real-time separation of background. You can see actually through the hairs, individual hairs, the background, the virtual background. And this was state of the art. It's still state of the art with the incorporation of AI. So concentrating and looking at the feasibility of supporting the business value creation. So as to summarize the whole, less agile, more flow. What I mean and what I saw it, I love this, is to focus on the business. You can't actually make a transition. You can't actually engage yourself with the agile approach and coaching without actually focusing that company need to survive as well. So whatever transition you do, you still need to focus that company that it supports and has the company to produce that turnover and revenue that it requires to survive. So focus on the product delivery for the business values, and with the pragmatic framework of the Agile framework, and with the introduction of leveling this innovation and create the innovation as enabler, as actually we see it in the Spotify model. The research actually became an enabler, not the features as with the Spotify. We consider that the research and the hardware cadence is different from the product development, and the organic team actually can solve more complex problems than as would any consultant would be able to solve by straight consultation. So I since then believe on organic teams, and I try to manage all my projects, teams, and companies that I'm working with toward this principle. And I have to say that it's not about that I force these people to follow Spotify, not force these people to follow SAFe, but actually as a success story for Spotify, and any time when SAFe is working is just a good example on which way somebody could go. So it's not SAFe, not Spotify, is a mixed practice, and it needs to be adopted. So I just have this Spotify picture as the rest say, how is the feature actually become an enabler for the product. But this is how innovation, I believe, should be considered in any places. So I hope you have some questions. I saw in between that there were some messages. So thanks for your attention. Now I'm ready for questions.
Thank you, Ferenc. I have a question. So you had 3 different teams, and you said a couple of slides ago with the PO team. How did you make sure that the facilitation made sure that the PO teams is aligned? Because I think with a lot of the startups, if the founder comes into the development team, hey, I have this feature, develop this. How did you make sure that you have kind of aligned in that PO team? Yeah, that one.
Yes. So one part of the story is that it's true. So in many cases, we had that all these stakeholders went straight to the developers that I need this for tomorrow. You have to do this for me. And so the very first one, as part of the culture change, is that every developer understood that it's one point of contact, and they love this phrase. So one point of contact means that actually their point of contact is the backlog, and the CEO told the other stakeholders in the PO team and all even the founder and the co-founder, he told them that if your wish is not in the backlog, it's not going to be executed. So follow the process and get it into the backlog. If it's not in the backlog, it's not going to be considered. So this is where a pragmatic approach, I believe, helps. And they bent it in the way. So we actually adopted because they in some way needed that. They adopted that in every sprint there was one small gate for one task or one feature to drop in, one small feature. So in every sprint there was only one placeholder for some addition, and that was like a trade-off in between the two demands.
And we have one question on the chat from Christopher. Many corporates struggle with handover from the research and development into the main business, like your product team.
Yes.
How was that managed? Like, what level of maturity was expected before it could be deemed to go mainstream?
In a practical terms, whatever the research team produced was never ready for production. So basically, they were working in MATLAB or with anyhow. So the code level for a research result was never ready for production. So they had an absolutely different research branch, and they were actually very dynamic teams formulated. So the pool was the same, but on a daily basis they started to formulate teams. And what happened is that if a research result was decided that okay, this can go now to production, then one lead developer went into the research head of that topic together for one sprint, and they were working together to create that feature adoption as a baseline to create and then to work with. So that was a transition between research and the feature, product feature, and then a result of that became a feature result incorporated into the feature branch of the product, and then went through on the development cycle how to integrate it and stuff, and got into the product. Did I answer your question? Not sure. Christopher?
Sorry, we'll have to.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks.
Was there KPI? Who decided what product, what feature would go into the product? So your R&D team may have developed a whole lot of new technology, but how was it decided what would go into the product? Thank you.
Correct. So that was actually a big step forward when I achieved that they had to formulate acceptance criteria, and when it became metric and not just qualitative, then it was a big step forward. So, for example, with tracking as one feature from a continuous research, at one stage the requirement was that, for example, in a 7-meter distance, it has to be 1 millimeter precise as in any movement to actually work with. So it had to have a very well formulated KPI or acceptance criteria on how is it accepted and when is it accepted. And if it was not close to it, then it had to be demonstrated if it's acceptable or not. The good part of it is that studio industry and studio technique is somehow magic. So in that sense, such a product as a studio product is works as the what your eye accepts as a result, not mathematically precise resolution. So the same with the with this zoom. If you look at, this is not precise at all. You can see that the background separation is not precise at all, but this is acceptable. For this level, it is acceptable. So, so show business has a different acceptance level. So we had in the product owner team, the founders and the CEO who were coming from actually the movie industry to decide whether a level is accepted or not to go for production.
Thank you, Ferenc. We had another question. How long did it take for the culture change, asks Hema.
Yeah, good question. So the very first part, the first phase, until we actually drove that into results, was 9 months. So it took a very long time because it was very hard to, even with these young people and all researchers and everything, to step out and start working together and to accept the framework, accept the culture to work with the Agile framework. That was a long time, but as it actually got supported more and more by the CEO, it was easier. So it took also for the CEO to accept, and it took about, I would say, 6 months for the CEO to accept that that he doesn't go to the developers, he doesn't go to the researchers, to the hardware team straight and start discussing one by one who is doing what. and once that went through the fan, then it started to work. It was great. But then for the second phase, it took about 6 months, another 6 months, and we had actually 2 conferences in a year, and in between we started to actually get some company orders. So basically went into the market, and we had 3 studios that we started to work together to deploy the system, and a few companies to work together with from the studio industry. So at the end, as you saw here on this video was on NAB on our partners stand. So we actually incorporated our technology and integrated into their system. And I believe that's also a business success on that side. Altogether, it took 3 years to work that out. I would say that now that I'm aware of the results, it might go a bit quicker, but I would never forget that that people, we call it culture change, but in fact, the mindset, to change the mindset of the people and to accept possible solution and to work against the clock as become an organic team, that will take time always. And it's better to have an organic team than a quicker result and then resistance growing from the things.
Thank you, Ferenc. Sorry, you become choppy a little bit again, so probably a slide with no video is better.
Sorry. Yep.
So Hema just said, thanks for your honest response on the duration it took. Who needed it? Who needed to accept it to trigger the effective change? I think you might have answered with the CEO that, but so who needed to accept this to trigger the effective change?
Sorry, I didn't get the
So
question.
the cultural change, who needed to accept that cultural change to trigger it across the whole organization?
Well, it's not just this organization, but in many of, sorry?
And I think Hema just answered that. Sorry, he did confirm that it was the CEO, right?
Yes.
Yep. Good. Before I stop the recording, is there any other question? If feel free to use the chat or use the mic. Oh, Nayan has a question. So during a conflict of opinion in the PO team, who usually had the last say for a product feature and why?
Good question. As for political fights, it was, yeah, they were actually, I had another slide. I'm not sure if I can grab you that one, but let me try. So yes, it was a continuous fight. So the founder had believed in his vision. Now, as I actually showed you in the in that pyramid chart, so the founder is always in the bottom. He has a vision. He wants to put through the vision, whatever counts. And then we had the CEO who is responsible to coordinate in between the investors, the founder, and the actual market. And then we have these main sources of stakeholders incorporate into the decisions. And and I think we were lucky that nobody wanted to have a last word except the CEO who was in power. So as a final word, it's also like one point of contact. So if it was a dispute or it was not a straightforward decision, then the CEO put an end to it. So his decision was the one that put one feature into developmental or to actually grant a budget for a new research or to continue the research.
Yep, Nayan says, thanks, Ferenc. I will stop the recording, but let's stay online. But thank you very much, Ferenc, for your presentation. If you can do a clap.
Thanks for the questions.